Regional Veterinary Investigation Lab (RVIL) Center has different sections that carry out different screening and tests to samples brought by farmers. At times when farmers take samples to the lab, RVIL may reject them. Dr. Murege expounds on the factors that lead to the rejection of a sample.
Sometimes we reject a sample because of the way it has been preserved between taking and bringing it to the laboratory. For example, you might collect this milk in the evening and you want to bring it to us in the morning. If you keep it just in the environment, the organisms will multiply, and if there were any other organisms in the environment, they will multiply. Eventually, we will not be able to tell you what caused the disease. But if you keep this milk sample in a fridge, in a cooled environment, and then in the morning you bring it very fast, we will be able to give you the results. Sometimes we reject a sample because what you have brought and the test you want us to carry out are not able to give us the results. For example, we have a disease called babesiosis. Babesiosis is a disease where animals, they urinate blood urine. So when people see blood urine, they collect that urine and come and tell us to come and tell them the disease. But the disease-causing agent is not in urine, it is in blood. What we require is a blood smear. So we will advise you, go back, collect a blood smear, or have a animal health service provider collect the blood smear and bring it. That is the way we will be able to tell you what was causing the disease. Because there are many diseases that cause blood urine. And if we don't get the blood, we will not be able to get the organisms. Sometimes we reject a sample because it is in very small amounts, quantities. For milk, we require like this, about 5 to 10 ml or cc's. So if you bring us just a drop, we might not be able to do the work that we are supposed to do on it. So when we reject a sample, we still receive it. We don't tell you just go away with the sample. We fill the register, we fill the form, and we fill another form called the rejection form. And we also transfer it to our digital system so that it is captured that you came, but it has been rejected. So this form, now we give you a report. We have rejected your sample because of 1, 2, 3, and we want you to do 1, 2, 3 so that you bring us a sample that can assist you and can assist us. That sample now, we dispose it off. We don't allow you to go back with it because here you will find there are very many other diseases. If you go with it, you might take more diseases to your farm. So we are the ones who dispose it off, but we give you a report. When we receive those samples and they have been hidden, we now pick this mobile phone and take that sample to the relevant section of the laboratory where the tests as requested or as we see appropriate is supposed to be carried out. By the way, once we receive the sample, it changes the name from sample to specimen. We call it a specimen. Now it means it is ready for working on. So once we have the specimen, it is worked on, and all the results are put. It goes to the duty veterinarian, who goes through the information and comes to a conclusion. We call it a diagnosis. And say the diagnosis is that it is this disease. And this is the advice to control or to prevent future disease outbreaks of the nature. So when this form comes back, it has gone through up to the duty veterinarian. We open it through this the program, because everywhere it goes, they key in the information, and we print 2 copies of that report. One copy we attach it to this manual form, which is for filing, as you can see our filing system behind. And the other one, we put it in the out tray, waiting for collection by the farmer. So when the farmer comes to collect his form, we get it for him. We make sure that he has signed in this register that he has received the report. If it's a farmer who can be able to understand the diagnosis and the advice, he just goes with the form. If it's a farmer who cannot understand that, he enters the consultation room. You can see our consultation room, and we sit down and explain the details. And we even link him to or her to where he can, the agrovets, where he can buy the relevant drugs that we have prescribed in that report. So sometimes some farmers are too busy, they are not able to come for reports. They give us their email. We have a place where we capture email address in this one, and when the report is ready, we just send it to them. Some of them request that we use WhatsApp. We also do that. So we use various methods to disseminate the results. And those results, we also give copies to relevant authorities. For example, somebody, we normally get the details. Where do you come from? The sub-county and the county. We give reports, copies of those reports email copies to the sub-county officer and to the county director so that they can be able to follow up on that case if it requires following up.
This section is where they receive the dead animals from a farm for further screening for the cause of its death. Here, they dissect and open the animal's body to check its internal parts for the affected area and sections. Dr. Ayeko, the vet officer in charge of this section, takes us through the post-mortem activities.
This is where we do opening up of dead animals called carcasses for purposes of diagnosis. Now, which animals do we get for post-mortem? We get animals ranging from the bovine, that refers to cattle. We get sheep and goats, those are referred to as ovine and caprine. We get porcine or pigs. We get the canines, these are dogs. We get poultry, we refer to them as avian species. And we also get miscellaneous species, like fish. There's a lot of fish farming going on in ponds. We get a lot of fish certain times of the year. We also get rabbits, which are referred to as emerging livestock, and also equine. Equine refers to the donkeys and the horses. Why do we do post-mortem in animals? The reason we do post-mortem is because we want to come up with a diagnosis. We want to know what caused death in an animal. A lot of times, we do this in order to intervene from the herds of origin from which the animals are coming from. And the purpose of this is for disease control. We also do post-mortem diagnosis for the purpose of forensic determination. You want to know what caused death, there's a contestation as to what caused death. Therefore, the results from post-mortem diagnosis become useful. The overall objective, broadly, for post-mortem examination is to be able to help farmers control diseases and therefore be able to produce animal products in a way that is profitable, in a way that is contributing to better profits in their enterprises.
In preparation to conduct the post-mortem activity at RVIL, the doctors must be properly dressed for biosafety and biosecurity measures to keep away contamination and disease spread. For the post-mortem to be effective, the RVIL labs must have equipment that will enable the technologists to work efficiently.
The pathologist and the post-mortem attendant must be wearing protective clothing. Okay? This is just part of the gear. We must have the face mask on, we must have the gloves so that we don't expose ourselves to pathogens that may cause disease. We also do rabies diagnosis. We receive a specimen either as a rabies suspected specimen from the animal health attendants, from the veterinary professionals in the field, and they bring heads. They bring heads for diagnosis, but we can also receive animals that are suspected to have rabies. When we receive them, we hold them in our animal pens, and usually they will die within 10 days. After that, we take the heads, we harvest part of the brain, and we conduct rapid antigen testing for rabies virus. When we find that it is positive, we subject that particular sample to further confirmatory testing, which is done at the Central Veterinary Lab in Kabete. We have in this laboratory several equipment that are able to help us do the work that we do here. For example, you will notice that we have a hot air oven on my right. This is useful for sterilization of post-mortem equipment. To my left, there is a cold room. The cold room is where we hold animals when we receive them and we are not able to conduct post-mortem on them immediately, and this is able to help us conduct post-mortem examinations on animals that have not started to decompose. Just right behind me, you'll notice that we have an incinerator, and that incinerator is locked in a special room called the incinerator room, where we convey carcasses after post-mortem for purposes of incineration as a way of disposal. But we also dispose carcasses using disposal pits that have been lined, and we have a choice. Sometimes we may just want to incinerate when we are overwhelmed by carcasses, but most of the times we will just use the disposal pits and they will serve well enough. This is all part of biosafety and biosecurity, so that we ensure that no pathogens leave this compound, which is a quarantine area, to spread to the neighboring, to the neighborhood. You will also notice that when you came in, there were footbaths at the gate. We also have footbaths at the post-mortem entry. When we enter the post-mortem room, there's a footbath at that particular entry, and this is supposed to protect the rest of the laboratory from contamination from whatever goes on here in this lab. We do our changing in a changing room once we exit, so that we leave our clothes and everything there, so that we also do not contaminate the other parts of the laboratory with whatever pathogens may be found in this area. We advise farmers that this is a quarantine area. When they bring their animals, they should not expect to live with either part of the animal or the entire animal, because this may lead to spreading of diseases from this area, which is known as a quarantine area.